All right, guys, it's almost an agreement time. As mentioned, we are going through as many of these candidates in this gajillion-person race coming up in the May primaries, and then it's going to follow with another million people in the August local general as well as the state primary. So we're going to work through as many of these as we can so we get to know people and what they're doing and who they are and that kind of thing. We're almost an agreement at gmail.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostatagreement.com. There I have my job description sheets that we're still working on filling out, but it's an attempt to try to give everybody an idea of what people can actually do in the jobs that we're electing them for, not just, who's running, but also what the job that they're seeking actually can and can't do, those kind of things. Today I've got Kim Frazier. She's running for the at-large 11. Yeah, at-large 11. We'll talk more about what the at-large is and some of the history of that stuff as well. So we're almost in agreement. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Hit us up there. Give us a good review. Share it with your friends. Tell them about it. This is one of 5 this week and 10 over the next couple weeks, and I've got a couple more filling in some gaps there too. So we got a lot of shows coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you get the shows automatically in your inbox. All right, almost in agreement. Here we go. Hello, Kim.
Hey, Seth. How are you?
I'm well. It's another day in the life of being an amateur local journalistic-ish podcaster or something or other.
Hey, listen, I think you've advanced farther than amateur. You're doing a great job. I've told you before, I really love what you're doing.
You should,
and just the substance.
Follow some of the comment logs depending on who I have on the show, and it gets people question my sanity and legitimacy constantly. But that's okay. All right, so I always like to start out here. I think one of the things that I learned recently that I think a lot of people don't really quite understand on how our county government works is what an at-large is and how that sits against it. So I'm going to run through my understanding of it. Correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. So Knox County is divided into 9 districts. Each district has a county commissioner, and then we have 2 are what we call at-larges, and that's our county-wide. And so there's 10 and 11, and they're county-wide individuals. So the theory, at least, is that everybody in Knox County has 3 commissioners that answer directly to them.
That's correct. I mean, you're spot on. As you know, county
took me 2 years to figure it out.
Body. So yeah, I know. Well, like we've talked about or said in the past, that if you're not in it, it's kind of hard to understand. But you're right. County commission is the legislative body of our local government. We've got 9 districts. Districts are determined, by population, one vote, one person, and then we have 2 at-large commissioners, which serve all of Knox County, all 520 square miles, all citizens, 470 plus citizens. And as you stated, it really does give our citizens additional voices. So oftentimes in my experience, I have found that, citizens and their district commissioners may really see things eye to eye, or maybe they don't. So it gives those citizens and areas and all of these pocket communities that we have all across Knox County additional voices when it comes to decision making at the local level.
Right, exactly. And so again, I run on the premise that I don't really quite understand what's going on. And that one, to me, after it's explained to me, it makes total sense. It's not like, oh, that sounds stupid. No, that makes total sense. And I think it's a good idea, especially because we went down from 19 years past or some crazy number of commissioners we used to have.
Yeah. And that has to be done, at the charter review. That's a part of our charter that determines the structure of county commission. And there's been several discussions, add more, take away.
Because at one point it was there was no at-larges, but each district had 2.
Right. Correct. Yep. And I didn't know that either until I kind of went face first into the political arena. That's
the only way you can do it, is you just got to deal with the punch in the nose. Okay. So, anybody I've on here that I haven't had before, I like to do the 5-minute bio. So it's, you're in your mid-30s or whatever. So what have you been doing for the last 30 minutes to get here? I came out of the bar business. I know the rules.
Good job. But so, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. I was the daughter of 2 conservative Christian parents. They taught me the value of hard work and the value of a dollar. And then back in 1995, met a guy who was a UT volunteer, very passionate, very deep-rooted in Big Orange country. In 1996, we got married, made Knox County our home. And since then, I've had some great opportunities here. I've worked as a healthcare administrator. I've worked as a human resources director for a global entertainment company. I've been a small business owner. I've been a nonprofit consultant. But really, I'm mostly passionate about community advocacy work. So in the 26 years I've been here, I've served on multiple dozens of boards and committees and stakeholder groups. And Russ and I, Russ is very, very deeply rooted in the community. He has a very big servant's heart. And we kind of like to run our family that way. So our boys are the same way. We have 2 teenage boys in the public school system. We're very much supporters of our public school systems. My father-in-law was a public school principal until his untimely death. And so we're all products of the public school system. And so our kids are thriving and doing great in Knox County schools. They're over here at Hardin Valley Academy. And, really our life plan was, when I met my husband, Russ, at the time, he was in medical school. And so our plan was to, get him through medical school. I would work. He started in his residency. He matched at UT. We landed here, big orange country. I didn't know a soul. I'm the outgoing one. He's a little bit more reserved. So it just kind of worked. That was, just made sense for us to move here. This is where he grew up. He grew up here since he was 1. But, in that time, I really got to know the people here and just fell in love with them. And, it's funny, being from Alabama, don't cut my tires or, slip my tires and all that stuff. People always ask me, what's Crimson Tide and what is, why do you have an elephant? And so when I came to Knoxville, I said, now I can wake up and be a volunteer every day. That's something fun. I can't wake up and be a Crimson Tide. So that's what I try to do.
Do you know the story of the elephant?
I don't know
where the story came from. If the story that I heard is true, is something about an elephant got loose from a circus coming through town. And so the tide was already the thing, but the elephant running through town was the tide, was a tide of elephant running through town, and that thing kind of stuck. But I don't know how true that story is, but random things that I might know incorrectly, that's on the list. Okay, so this transitions easily into the next. The follow-up question is, why now? Why this seat? You mentioned that you've been active in a lot of groups already, but why the jump into the actual true politics as opposed to being part of the advocacy group?
Yeah, I think I'm a little crazy, first off, but it really starts, almost 10 years ago. I think you and I have exchanged this conversation or shared this in common that, I wasn't paying attention until it really impacted me and my family and the people that I love and my community. And my story is similar to so many that I hear throughout Knox County is, I didn't really understand how local government impacted me and my family and my community until it really did. And for me, my story is that I volunteered so many hours at my kids' elementary school, and I went to have lunch with them one day. They were in kindergarten, first grade, and I was told, everyone's having to eat in their lunchroom because we are updating the lunch schedule. And I started asking questions. So what do you mean? And they said, well, we have so many students that we're going to have to add additional lunch time so that everyone fits in the cafeteria and meets fire code. And so my kindergartner started eating lunch at 10:50 in the morning. And, as a parent, I thought, okay, I need to pack a snack, or I started packing snacks for the entire class because, 5-year-old, you're still pretty little. So
right. 10:30 to 2:30 is a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time. And so with just that one experience, I started asking a lot of questions of our teachers, of our principals, then school administration, school board representatives. And then it kind of linked over into, the planning department, and then the Department of Engineering. And then at the time, my district representatives within local government, and all the way up to the mayor. And, I was just learning all of these things and really how local government works and how it's all so intertwined, but at the same time, very disconnected. And so I kind of rallied around a couple of other parents who had some similar concerns about the overcrowding in our school. And so we started a little community group, just an organized community group called Hardin Valley Sports and Middle School. And at the time, I was working, I kind of stepped back from doing some of my consultant work with nonprofits to kind of dedicate a big part of my day, really my week, to just learning all that I could and having conversations and collecting and researching hard facts, because I quickly learned that, everyone is very emotional about these topics, especially when it comes to your children or land use, mental health. It's all very emotional. And our local leaders, they need hard facts and data. I explain it to people. When you bring forth an issue or an initiative, seek out support that they cannot deny, that it gives them a legally defensible stance on either for or against. And so that's really where I focused those 2 years of my life, was what information do you all need, and what hoops do we need to jump through to get another school in our community, and also get another school in the Gibbs community, and get another school on the 5-year capital plan, and then look at where do we go from there. And after 2 years, we were successful in actually accomplishing those things. And at the time, I kind of taken a break. I had learned so much, and it had been such a hard 2 years, really rallying people together. And at the time, the director of engineering, the director of planning, called me up and said, "Hey, can we just have coffee?" And basically said, there's a much bigger picture than just schools, as you've learned. We really, Knox County needs a voice that can approach concerns and issues of citizens kind of the way that you did, very methodical. There was a strategy to it, a lot of fact finding. Again, I say facts don't have feelings. I just kind of stick to the facts. And they asked me, to kind of consider being a voice for the county, and kind of the vision of where do we want to go, and are we really planning for the future? Because that came up a lot in my 2 years of discovery. I realized very quickly that Knox County as a government, they had plans and studies, but they were outdated, 20, 30 years outdated. And so, I kind of felt like, man, we're screaming down the interstate with no map. We have no idea where we're going, where it will lead, and how we're going to get there. And so when those two, government representatives asked me to kind of consider that, I took some time, and thought about it and prayed about it, and, realized what they were asking me to do was a marathon. I had kind of done a sprint with the school initiative. What they were asking me to do was a marathon. And so I kind of thought about it, prayed about it, talked, to my family, and decided to make it my full-time, just volunteer work. And so through that, I started looking at every aspect of local government. And again, the planning really just kept sticking out to me, and looking at our budget and where are we spending, and are we really capturing enough property tax revenue to support growth and development. And, people don't realize that, what impacts you and your family daily is everything that falls under infrastructure. People like to think that infrastructure is it's school and roads. It's so much more than that. I mean, it is your mental health and your emergency services, and your just all of it. And so really, I just became so passionate about it. And if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be this interested and this passionate about education and public safety and infrastructure, I would have laughed at you. I would have thought, no, this is God. This, I'd rather jab my eye out. But that wasn't the case. It was just, I'm being an HR director by trade. I'm very policy driven. I like process. I like for it to be effective. I like for it to be efficient. And what I learned is that we are just layered and layered in process, and we are very inefficient. And, I really started to think, man, I think we can do better. And so over the course of the last 5 years, people have asked me to kind of press into this. The quote for me really is, when I made this decision, God just kind of said, I need you to do what you're already doing, but with a deeper purpose and on a bigger platform. And And that was kind of it for me. I just thought, and so when you ask, why now? Why now is because we're at a critical point in our local government, and it could go a couple of different ways. And I want to leave it better for my kids. And right now, we've made some really good progress, but there's a lot more to do, and I think we can do better. And what makes me different and unique is that I have the experience and the knowledge of local government. I understand the capabilities and the limitations, and I understand the structure and the culture. The second part, or the second reason, is I have the time and the energy. I would be one of the very few commissioners who would actually give this their full-time focus and effort. And so I say to all my fiscally conservative friends, I'm a really good deal. Like, you would get a really good deal electing me. And then lastly, which I think is critically important for people to know and understand, is that I am my own person. I have no allegiance to anyone except the people and the places I want to represent. And as I have gotten into the political arena, I have learned just exactly how important that is, that we elect people who are strictly loyal to the citizens and making government better. So that was kind of a long answer.
No, that's great. I mean, that at least started a number of questions I was going to have anyway. And so let's play the positive what if game here. And so, you mentioned a bunch of different things in there. So if you get elected to this position, and if you get to take that seat, what are some of the top priorities for you to kind of to start with as far as executing some of the change that you want?
Right. Well, the first thing people need to understand is that I've been really effective as a citizen. So I've been doing a lot of the behind the scenes work on some of the things that we're actually taking action on. And the first one of that is the newly announced comprehensive growth plan. That is something I've been advocating for 5 years, past administration, current administration. And that's something that, we kind of laid out for our local government and said, here's what you need to do. And through having many conversations, and again, fact finding, bringing data and information, we're doing it. They have put out a scope of services, which, we were a part of reading and just making sure that we were kind of covering all the bases. And, County Commission recently approved that and approved funding. And so it's really, really important to me to get into this seat so that I can see that through. That comprehensive plan, it will be one of the most important things that local government has done in decades.
Okay, can you expand a little bit on what some of the things that this comprehensive plan is including?
Sure. Yeah.
As it's written, at least.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan, typically by design, it's like a 30-year long-range vision and policy framework for economic and physical growth. And so one thing that we were doing is we just had what's called a general plan, which was great, but it was outdated. It was not regularly updated, reviewed and revised. And so, our pitch was kind of stop looking at things in isolation, like stop looking at transportation with one transportation plan, stop looking at recreational offerings in one study and plan, stop looking at roads and infrastructure with one plan. Bring it all together. Let's pull it all together in one comprehensive plan and look through a bigger lens rather than smaller lenses. And so that's critically important when decision makers are using, or they're supposed to use, these plans and studies that we've already conducted. And really they're not. So, every month we're seeing exceptions to the recommendations in all of these plans be amended. And so exceptions have kind of become the norm. So what this will do is actually take into consideration all of the market trends, all of the public services that the county provides, and really create a 30-year long-range vision and policy framework for physical and economic growth. And it'll formulate goals and objectives, policies, plans, how we implement the plans. It will provide tremendous resources to our decision makers and especially our planning staff and any of our county staff to look at the feasibility of projects. Like, how is this going to impact us? What is it really going to cost an infrastructure improvement? That's something that this county has never been able to do. They've never been able to identify the true costs of growth and development, and how do we be more intentional? So it's really, really exciting, and it really does take into consideration all of the services that a county government is expected to provide, from our school system to our law enforcement. Right now in county government, law enforcement and education, they kind of operate in silos. And so the left hand isn't really talking to the right hand. And this will actually cause everyone to come together, come to the table, and really figure out, where do we want to be? What does that look like? How do we make that happen? And then implementation. And so, that would be a big focus for me. And in that will also allow commissioners to better align the budget with our needs. Look at top-down spending. Why isn't money getting into our classrooms? Why isn't money getting into the pockets of our officers? It'll help answer some of those questions. Those are really, really strong priorities. Some of the little things we can look at are like the state fee to collect sales tax. We should be doing a better job of lobbying to reduce that. We need to look at reimagining our high school experiences for our students as far as career exploration. We need to have those conversations earlier on and help them identify what they can do with their skills and their talents and their interests, and kind of steer them into post-secondary options. I like to say our students are so different. They may want to, enroll in college or tech school, or they may want to go straight into employment, or heck, they may want to enroll. So it's really kind of reimagining that process for them too. And then, of course, we got to continue to make Knox County attractive to employers. We're losing some of our young professionals to other metro areas that have more to offer. And, when talking to folks, big companies that are considering places like Knoxville, the thing I continuously hear is quality of life. And ironically, employers will look for areas that are near water. We'll check, we're near water. We're surrounded by water everywhere. We've got like 17 square miles of water. But the thing that they keep saying is that, you all don't have a vision or a plan for your county. And I'm concerned how that will impact my employees. Like, I want them to have a good quality of life. And so that's important. And again, then there's the hard question. I think that it's time to have a serious conversation about our revenue sources, and do that in a way that includes a robust citizen engagement effort, because citizens don't understand, and they need interaction, they need connection with our local government officials, and they need education. We just cannot give them enough information.
Right, because one of the things that I struggle with on that in particular is like, so let's say, in the next couple of years, we get a bunch of major infrastructure improvements, road work, and this, that, and the other. It's like, well, was that a county thing, or was that county spending some of this new infrastructure bill dollars and trying to suss out the difference of where the actual source of this change comes from? Because I think, especially in the game of politics, people are going to take credit for it because they can, because we as the citizen don't know any better. I don't know if this is something that came out of commission or if this is something that came out of Biden's White House. I don't know that.
Right.
And unless you're more engaged than the average citizen can really, I always put it that way, can be, not that they want or don't want to be, but that they have that time and energy to put into, they're not going to know. And then if somebody tells them, they might believe them. They might believe that this was a county commission thing, even though it was really just county commission spending federal dollars. And especially when that comes into a tax conversation, if it's like, well, I would see the sales pitch easily by somebody in politics moving forward is that, we raise taxes, all this infrastructure gets done. We claim that as part of the money, but I could see somebody else easily selling that as well. That's infrastructure dollars, that your actual new tax revenue is going elsewhere. And so that transparency that you speak of, I think, is a super important thing, and engagement as well. And that's the one that I struggle with, which is what I guess I'm theoretically trying to do, is figure out a different path for engagement, because the paths that we have right now aren't getting a lot of engagement.
Yeah. And, and to that point, anytime that me or some of the community groups that I've organized have been a part of, anytime that we have been a part of a local government process, maybe public forum or public input, citizen engagement to update a plan or a study, we have been able to bring together more people and increase participation from a citizen level than any other studies in Knox County. And so I know how to do that, and that's why I say an at-large commissioner is a full-time job. It is not a side hustle. It is not part-time. It is full-time. And in order, like you said, full transparency, getting out and talking to citizens just want to be heard. Someone asked me the other day, what are your strengths? I said, I listen and I show up. And that's what I would bring to the table. And that's what's so important, is educating. Like you said, we don't understand everything that's going on as a citizen, as a parent, as, a professional. We're not spending our day reading the recovery plan. I woke up this morning and that's what I did. I read the recovery plan. But not everyone's doing that. And so I really try, when I go out and talk to citizens, I try to give them kind of real number examples. Take this for, when someone said, what do you think about property tax? I said, I think there should be a discussion about property tax, and here's why. For instance, there was a traffic mobility study done in one small area, one community in Knox County. And like I said, I think Knox County is made up of dozens of unique communities that have different expectations and needs of local government. But this one community, the county did a traffic mobility study. In that study, it identified $140 million needed for road improvements in 2019 for the current state of that area, not taking into consideration future growth. So 2020, 2021 was a pretty great growth year for Knox County. Lots of new construction. We only captured an additional 3.4 to 7 million, which 7 million is the what they hope, the proposed capture. The actual capture is 3.4 million in additional property tax revenue. So our annual budget in engineering is like 29 million for the entire county. I mean, I don't know about you, but as a citizen, I don't understand why people aren't questioning that. And so I've been working with an economist here in the last couple of weeks, because I really want to know, okay, property tax revenue, given that our local government is supposed to provide all the services of basically, a good quality of life. I wanted to know, what is our revenue or loss per rooftop with one student in public schools? And that takes into consideration, again, all of the public services that as a county, we're basically required to provide. And we haven't even gotten all of the information back from some of the county departments that we're getting information from. And we're already at a net negative of over $3,000 per roof. Those are things that our commissioners should be asking. Those are questions that should be asked. I ask a lot of questions.
No, I mean, I get it. Yeah. That's I like, what I like particularly about that is the how you're dividing the information. Like, that's one of the things that a lot of stuff, when I go and look at budget and stuff like that, it's these big giant numbers, and maybe a percentage of how much that is of the other big giant number. And it's hard to see. Now, I don't know if you accidentally just said we're going to raise $3,000 a rooftop in property tax, but
no, I did not.
but it illustrates the point that you're trying to get to, and because again, like, one of the things I think about a lot in that conversation, especially, is that our obligation as a county to the schools and the state's obligation in pulling their weight, for lack of a better word, because I know that's a fun topic to jump into, on how much, because I'd like, actually, let me start here, and then I'll come back to this point. So you were talking earlier about kind of the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing as far as the county, the sheriff's office, and the schools. One of the things that I'm still trying to get a better understanding of is because, I made the joke to a couple of the city council, or not the city council, excuse me, some of the school boards, some of the current school board reps as I've had them in here, is that we need to change the job title. You are a state of Tennessee Knox County division. It's not a Knox County within the state of Tennessee. And so how do we go about justifying that unity, I guess, for lack of a better word, between the state entity that is our school system and our county government?
Well, I think too, this was something that I had to learn, was I had the same question. And so I just started digging in and asking questions. Again, like I said, this is what I do. I ask a lot of questions. And it was surprising to me that our local government, especially county commission and probably school board, they must always look for the source of authority for any action taken. So they have no authority to act outside of the scope of the powers granted by the General Assembly, the state. And so we're limited. Immediately, you're limited in what you can do. You can look at ordinances and resolutions and those type of things, but really the bottom line is communication. Are we having regular meetings with our school representatives and our county commission and, the sheriff's office, and really, again, communicating. There's a lack of communication, and it's something I'm passionate about. And I know that I would really invest a lot of time in trying to bring those people together, whatever that would look like. I don't know. And those, people, you can't go into this making any promises whatsoever. Period. Anybody that will say, I will never do this or I'll never support that, immediately you've lost my vote, because it's just not realistic. It's just not. And if you have not been, again, in the arena of it, it's very hard. Actually, it's very easy to say that. You can't make any promises. So when you ask, how do we get those people together? It starts with a conversation. It would take a commissioner's time to go and talk to.
Apologize for interrupting, but again, the as I understand the way the authority structure works, how much can, even with a good conversation, how much can a county commission actually influence what's going on in the schools?
Well, it all starts with funding. Really, when you look at, again, we're kind of in silos. County commission kind of decides and sets a budget at the recommendation of the superintendent, the sheriff, the county mayor for, our operating budget, and then county commission votes on it. And so for me, I would actually get in there and probably spend a lot of time asking questions and bringing those to my peer commissioners' attention. How are spending, where are we spending money? You can just look at it and see we spend most of our money on schools, public safety, and public health. How are we spending those money? So yeah, when you say we don't have that much authority, we don't. But if I'm going to give my child $20 to buy a sandwich and they bring me back 50 cents, I'm going to question that. And that takes, again, time, effort, knowledge, experience of where to look, who to ask. And then there are definite ways that a county commissioner can bring to light some of those issues and make some positive change. But it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort.
I agree. I think that's a good analogy with sending the kid to the store for a sandwich or whatever, with the way the commission technically works as far as what little bit of oversight they have into the sheriff and or the school system, as far as pretty much you're just handing that 20 over and hoping they spend it wisely, which again, right. I don't know how much we can actually, other than to make a, media fuss about it. I don't know much we could actually do. Because again, I've had Sheriff Spangler on. I got Jimmy coming next week, and I'm trying to figure out what to talk to him about, because where the sheriff's office sits in the hierarchy of government here, I get it, but it's really weird to me. And so, like, we have this whole merit council mess and other stuff going on. The KPD makes more sense because it's like, well, KPD is a division of the city of Knoxville.
Right.
The sheriff's office is not.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people understand that part.
Right.
I don't. And I think one of the things for me personally, currently in this election cycle, is I'm trying to keep people from speaking out of turn on those kind of things, because I hear a lot of people, schools is an easy one that comes up a lot, and people that don't really have the authority to truly talk about it. Now, I hear what you're saying on yours, and it makes sense, but it's right on that. I think it's right inside the line of almost going to the speaking out of turn thing, which I think you navigated that well. So, and
to say, I kind of liken it to an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's really what it would take.
As it runs through the streets of Tuscaloosa, making a new nickname for the school. See, we bring it all back. That's how we do it here. We keep it flowing. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, again, like that 30-year plan. I'm very curious if you could send me a link to that. I'd love to look over that myself.
Sure.
And so because to me, the more I understand it, the biggest direct impact, I think, is that a county commission can do is that tax conversation that we've already talked a little bit about, which, just like you said, you can't promise anything, but you're willing to talk about it, which I like that. And then I think the other one is land use, which goes inside the 30-year plan that we were talking about. And I did have a listener text me a question. And, well, not a question, but a topic, I guess, to hear some discussion about countywide planning, infrastructure versus zoning and housing and stuff like that, because I think you're spot on. I think if the census was a year later, the numbers would be even bigger than they already were. And I think if the census was right now, it'd be even bigger than that. I've got a couple friends in real estate. I got a very good friend that's been trying to buy a house for 2 years. He's lived here his whole life, but can't find a house to save his life that's anywhere in sort of the budget size program that he had in mind. And so how do we manage, as a commission, how do we manage this growth? And I mean, which I find interesting, as you mentioned earlier, is that some employers aren't so keen on Knox County, but it seems like people are. And so how do we balance bringing those employers in and getting those amenities that employees like, that employers like, that employees might want, but also managing this growth? Because, the roads thing's a big, easy one. I mean, I have a business up on Emory, and Emory is ridiculous. It's hard to get. I mean, it's 20 minutes for a half a mile certain times of the day. And, but the demand is skyrocketing for housing. How do we go about trying to bring the housing market back to reality and, keeping infrastructure functional and usable, and getting people the ability to drive around town without taking 6 hours? Because I've been to Chicago a time or two in my life. It ain't fun.
Yeah. So before I jump into that, one thing that people kind of have a misconception about what a county commissioner does is they answer phone calls and emails most of the time. And they are contacted most of the time when it has something to do with stormwater runoff, drainage issues, traffic calming, road conditions, things that are impacting them on a day-to-day basis. And just as a side note, those are the things that I do already. Through the organized community groups that I have, I'm on the phone with people. I'm out on the back of four-wheelers looking where culverts have kind of broken away. I've been out trying to help people get stop signs improved and traffic calming. And I've developed great relationships with our county departments and our staff, where citizens are overwhelmed and they're intimidated and they don't know who to call. And if they have an issue or concern, they don't know how to find a solution for it. And so I've actually, over the last 3 to 4 years, that's what I do, is go out and help kind of connect citizens with local government and get them to the right person or department that can help address their concerns and their issues. Now, how do we, as you said, how do we balance it all? Again, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. We are already in motion of addressing that with this administration's getting on board and advocating for a plan. We're already doing that, and so I can't wait to send you kind of the scope of service, because it is so robust And really, I commend this administration so much, and all of the team leaders who have been working their tails off to make this happen. It will absolutely address, broad stroke issues with local government and infrastructure, but also those issues that we are addressing or trying to address on a month-to-month basis. It will go as far down into looking at, updating outdated zoning ordinances. Do we need sector plans? Do we want more small area plans? I mean, it will look at eventually subdivision regs. I mean, there's such a top-down plan to really, really have just overall progress in the right direction. And so it will take, 18 to 24 months to kind of get through a process, and there will be robust citizen engagement.
Okay, so real quick, I apologize to interrupt you again, but you say in the right direction. Expand on that thought process, because in the right direction could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Right. Well, as I said, we have not known in Knox County what the cost to our county is with projects and development. So if you said here, someone is putting 340 houses in, my question has always been, and what are the infrastructure costs that will come along with that in order to support that community? How is it going to add value? No one could really give me any numbers. I've got numbers on what it costs to resurface and road improvements, how to widen a road. You're looking at millions of dollars per mile. But like utility expansion and infrastructure and stress on schools, no one could really give me anything tangible. And so we've kind of been making decisions from a place of not being very informed of how those decisions actually impact our county and our communities and our citizens. And so that's what this will do. If anything, it will completely give us, guidelines and a policy framework, and then it will give us tools and resources to make better decisions and be more intentional with our decisions. Because right now, we could do a whole lot better, a whole lot better. Like right now, I'm working with groups in one community that we spent the time and the money to actually collect the data to show that Planning Commission and County Commission have already approved 4,900 lots. They've already approved them, and they just continue to improve them. And the infrastructure in this area is not where it should be. They had no idea that that's how many houses were in the pipeline and were yet unbuilt. So doing this plan, it is going to give our decision makers and our local leaders such great tools and resources to make more intentional decisions, which in turn impacts directly our citizens.
Okay. Again, like I'm really fascinated by this 30-year plan. I wish I would have asked you about it before, so I could have reviewed it before, and then we could talk more specifically about it. Because again, I think managing the growth, I think, is one of the largest things going on right now. That's probably the least talked about. This isn't CRTs and masks in school. This isn't the health department and all that kind of crap going on. This isn't something the KPD shot somebody or the sheriff's office killed somebody in custody. These aren't those stories. This is how many houses are we going to put next door, and how are we going to make sure that the people that live here now and the people that move into those houses can still get to and from work without, with an actual road between A and B. And again, and I complain about it, and I still don't pay attention to it. So I can only imagine what regular people do, because it's very ethereal. It's out there, but it's not tangible unless it's that giant new subdivision going in just over around the corner from your house. Because I'm over here on North Shore, where there's a big project that's trying to get going on in here, and there's a neighborhood group that's trying to fight it off. And it's one of those, we got to balance it. We're going to grow whether you like it or not. How do we do it effectively so that it's as least impactful? We keep the things we like, but we manage the growth that's coming along with it. Okay. All right. So I got we've started a new program on this year's election cycle. It's the 5 standard questions, and then after that, we'll let you plug your website and Facebook and stuff like that, and we'll call it a show. Okay, so we've talked about some of this stuff already. It's going to be a little bit of a rehash, but this is our condensed version. If I get real ducky closer to election time, I'm going to chop these out and just make a big collage of everybody's, at least at large
That's
seats. Here's their little thing. We'll see. That's editing's a lot of work. I don't like doing it. So number one is this your first run in politics? If not, what have you done prior? And is this the highest seat that you intend to seek, or is there a future in politics? Is this a start for politics in you, or is this, just a passion project or something like that?
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question, because I tell people, over the years, people have come to me and said, who should I vote for? Or even people who are considering running for an elected office have come to me and asked for my input. And I always say to them, okay, so I will never vote for someone that does not have boots on the ground experience. And I always tell people, if you're interested in local government, that's great. That doesn't mean that you're qualified or equipped to run for office.
Now, to be fair, the qualifications are really, really low, technically. Really,
really low. Yeah, that's right. The bar's not too high. So anyway, but I tell people that, spend the time, money, and effort that you want to put into an election and campaign, and put it back into the people and the places that you want to represent, and then decide if you want to run. So for me, this is really just a way to deepen my commitment to public service, because in my opinion, that's what local government should be about: serving the public, answering the phone calls, showing up, helping people navigate through the processes. I mean, that's 80% of the job, and that's what I'm already doing. And so, I go back to that quote that I have, that this really is just a way to, deepen my commitment and my passion, and do it on a bigger platform. This is my first time running.
Okay.
I'm a new candidate, and no, I do not seek anything beyond this.
Okay, that's the question. All right, number 2, this is important. What's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream?
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
I didn't say I told you from the beginning, this is an amateur show.
Oh, gosh, I know. I like anything coffee flavored.
Okay.
Anything, yeah.
Anything coffee
Java,
flavored.
mocha.
Okay. Number 3 is, what's your favorite place here in town to eat? Local place.
Oh, okay. So there's this little hole-in-the-wall Mexican place right down the street. It's called Country Burrito. It's in a gas station. My family frequents it probably 2 to 3 times a week. I love it.
All right.
And cheese dip is my favorite.
Say it one more time. What was it called?
Cheese dip is my favorite. The queso. Country Burrito.
Country Burrito, somewhere in the Hardin Valley neighborhoods.
Yes.
All right. So number 4, we get back to more serious questions. So you're running as a Republican. Do you feel like, especially as somebody who's coming out of the kind of activist side of things, do you feel like partisanship helps we, the constituency, with this process, or do you think it's a detraction from?
I wouldn't say that I think it's a detraction. I think people affiliate with a certain party because it aligns with their upbringing, or where they stand on issues. For me, being a Republican, I kind of go back to those traditional core values of faith, family, freedom, and financial independence. Those things are really important to me. I will say that most of the issues and the day-to-day work of local government, county commission, and school board, it's non-partisan issues. It really is. It's more of a people issue. Sometimes it can be a detraction. Yes, if you let it. I try not to let it detract me. I really focus on the things that I can focus on and make a difference and actually do something about.
I mean, you're a Republican that's willing to talk about taxes, so that's that kind of pushes you a little bit out of the standard fold of Republican anyway.
Yeah, it does. And that doesn't mean that I support any sort of tax increase. What I do support is that no one's having a serious conversation about it, and that's an issue. Okay.
All right, so number 5, and this is another one. So again, you're running as a Republican. Now, whether it's local or national or not, a Democrat that you know of that you feel like does good work, is respectable, is somebody that you kind of look up to as a civic leader, whether it's local or otherwise?
Are there?
Right. Can you do you have a favorite Democrat, for lack of a better word?
Well, I mean, we've got 2 on county commission right now that I have great respect for, Courtney Durrett and Daisha Lundy. I mean, they're outstanding.
You'll have to work with both of them. So
Yeah, I mean, we have already, had several conversations and discussions about things that we're both passionate about, and how do we approach that? And like I said, I'm already doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I would just continue to do that. But they're great additions to commission, and they bring another perspective. And what people have to realize is that to seek the best possible outcome, it does take varying perspectives and a lot of discussion. And so I like to tell people my table is wide and long, and there's a place for everyone. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to respect your perspective and hopefully learn something from it, and then apply it into what is the best possible outcome. And, sometimes I don't really care who brings that suggestion or that solution to the table, as long as it's best for me and my family and the people I care about and my community. And as long as my kids will want to live, work, play, and worship here, when they graduate from college, that, again, focus on the things that you can do something about. And that's really, that's where my heart is. And so, yes, are there things that, those Democrats that I look up to that we have much varying perspectives on? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we want our kids to have a good educational experience, and we want them to be able to make a living doing something that they love in a town that they love, that they call home. And that's more important than anything. And this county is doing that. Our school systems are looking at how do we reimagine the educational experience for our kids, and how do we start talking about career exploration, and how do we get kids who are interested in mechanics, doing mechanical things, and trying to align them with community partners who are also employers. Those are things that I'm already a part of. And so that table, talking about those issues, there's every party affiliation is at that table having that discussion.
Excellent. So that concludes the 5 standard question portion that we're playing with right now.
Is this a pass-fail thing?
It's a complete incomplete thing. So you completed it.
Great.
So you will get your grade will show the reflect the 5 question answered. All right. So if you just want to take a minute and plug any of your ways to get a hold of you, ways to contribute or help on your campaign, that kind of stuff, you go right ahead.
I would absolutely love for everyone to learn more about me and my local efforts and all of the affiliations and things that I've been a part of over the last 26 years. You can do that at electkimfrazier.com. Follow us on Facebook, Elect Kim Frazier, Instagram. You can email me at kim@electkimfrazier.com or even electkimfrazier@gmail.com. My phone number, I'll give you my phone number, 865-805-1739. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's important to you and how I can best serve you. And I'll meet you. I'll meet you anywhere. Like I said, two things people need to know about me is that I listen and I show up. And I've been showing up when it was about people and community and not a campaign and election. And that's what you'll get from me.
All right. So spell Frazier for everybody. Make sure it gets out there spelled correctly.
Yes. Frazier. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, because I think I spelled it wrong when I was doing some stuff earlier, but I didn't put it out in the public, so it doesn't matter. So now I can spell it correctly. I'll put those in the show notes so that people can click right through when they listen, and I'll send you a link to the show as soon as I get it finished up. And I really appreciate your time today. This is really fun.
Thank you.
Post-primary.
This has been great.
You make it through the primary. Well, we don't know. Right now, you won't have to general against anybody if you make it through the primary. But if we get to that point, I'm going to follow up with everybody post-primary to run it into the general. So I'm sure I'll follow up between then and now as well.
I hope I get that opportunity.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. And I'm going to do an outro and we'll call it a day.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Kim Frazier, everybody. County Commission at Large, seats 11. Like I said, I'll put links to her contacts and stuff in the show notes so that you guys can easily click through and learn more about her there. I'll also be working on a county election cheat sheet similar to the city election one I did that'll at least be links to the shows I do with them and some general contacts for them as well. We're almost in agreement. You can find us at almostinagreement.com. While you're there, you can get those different cheat sheets I'm putting together as well as the job description page. As well as links to all the episodes that we've ever done. You could go to any of your favorite podcast providers. Get us on any of those places. Please do follow us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. You can subscribe there. But please subscribe wherever you're at, as it's going to help push us up the search engine so that other people can find us easier. Also, do the good hard work and tell your friends about us. It's a way for, like I said, it's a way for me to try to figure out how to be more engaging to the public at large, who is not really on board with the standard methods that already exist. So we're trying to figure out how this all works, and you can come along for the ride. So we appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for Kim for coming and doing the show. And like I said, I got 3 or 4 more this week, and then like 5 next week. So we're going to keep pounding through these. Appreciate everybody.